Hi, everyone, and welcome to our fourth episode of cyBARR Chat's HITRUST Edition. Today, we'll be talking about interim assessments and how authorized external assessors like BARR perform them. So let's get started with HITRUST Manager Swathi West. Swathi, to get started, can you give us some details about HITRUST interim assessments?
Yes. So for HITRUST CSF certification, the certification itself is valid for 24 months from the certification date on the condition that the interim assessment and the continuous monitoring requirements are met. The interim assessment must be completed and submitted to HITRUST in the 90-day window leading up to 1-year anniversary of the certification issuance date. A lot of words to make it a little bit simple. So if the certification issuance date is January 1st, the client will have 90 days to do the interim assessment. So that would be between October through December. You have to complete the interim assessment and submit to HITRUST, because your issuance date of the validated assessment, which got you certification last year, was on January 1st. So anytime before the 90-day window, you can do the interim assessment. For my CSF subscribers, though, the interim assessment will be generated automatically 90 days prior to the required submission date. If you want to, the subscribers can also manually generate the object 120 days prior to the submission. So that's one of the difference between my CSF subscribers and the non-subscribers. Usually for the non-subscribers, you only have 90 days, which is for everyone else. But for subscribers, the positive would be you can manually generate it. You don't have to wait for the 90 days, but you can manually generate it 120 days prior to it. And another great thing about interim assessments are completely performed in my CSF. And that's good for both clients and as well for us, because we don't have to attach a test plan, which we would do for a validated assessment. This one, we'll just test everything in the MyCSF, and that's definitely a positive for both the clients and for assessors.
Swathi, is it okay for organizations to change external assessors for interim assessments?
Yes, this is a big question every time. Like when I talk to clients, this is one question that pops up all the time. Yes, there is no process. You can always change the external assessor at any point in the engagement. However, depending on the organizations, the assessors as well, the organizations definitely need to keep in mind that sometimes retesting may be required. Because as an external assessor, we would like to have a greater degree of confidence in our clients and in their HITRUST CSF scope, their process, their implementation. So if a client wants to change the assessor and they came to BARR and they're like, hey, we want to change, but we completed the validation and validation testing, I think we're good. We have everything in place. We have policies, implementation, and scope. We don't have to test maybe not every requirement, but BARR would definitely want to do like a random test or just go through the scope itself to make sure we get everything right, because we are here to help them get certified. So we will set them up for success by doing that little nuance of retesting. That's one of the things to just keep in mind. Every assessor is different, but definitely BARR, we would like to talk through with the client on their scope, their policies and whatnot, just to make sure they get certified. That's the goal.
Can you talk a little bit about how an external assessor like BARR performs interim testing?
A great question, Michelle. Like I said, this is an important subject to discuss, because whenever we talk about these interim assessments, right, we definitely ask, because it's been a year. Like I said, just to reiterate, HITRUST certification is good for 2 years. And the first year you'll have certification, great, but the second year's one will come and we'll do the retest. We'll do the interim testing. And one crucial question we'll ask for our clients is whether there's any changes to the scope within the last year, because we'll definitely talk and do things, but just to make sure no major changes happen. Because if there are changes in the environment, then that might indeed change the responses to the controls or requirements. So we'll always want to make sure if there is a change, would that impact any of the responses that you did to the control requirements in any of the 19 domains? So that's the question that we would definitely ask. And then also, if there's a significant change happened to the domain or the requirement will assess the impact. So sometimes, you might have a acquisition, or you might bring in another product, or it might be just a feature that you added to your application. But we just want to make sure how much impact would that be to your scope? So BARR will assess the impact and test that specific control or the domain. So if you think, we added a new feature and we're going to give you new people will have access to that specific feature, for example. I'm just making this up on the go, but in that cases, we would just test the specific control, whether it's access control, that one control, or the whole domain itself. So depending on the impact, we'll definitely test to that, to that specific scope that the change happened. And just to also keep in mind that for interim assessment, HITRUST will randomly select one requirement from each domain, and BARR will test and validate the procedures. We don't test all the control requirements, just like you had in validated assessment. If you have 300 requirements, BARR will not test everything. We will only test the 19 controls, so each control from each domain, HITRUST, which selects randomly, and we'll go through all those controls. Being an external assessor, we might not have to attach a test plan. Like I said, everything is done in MyCSF. We don't have to attach anything external test plan like we do for validated assessment, but BARR will be testing the 19 controls the HITRUST selects to the same degree or even higher degree to how we tested controls for certification. We'll do the same review with the maturity scoring. We'll look at your policy, procedure, review, implementation, everything that we did for validated assessment. We'll do the same thing for interim assessment as well. Another important thing we do as part of the interim assessments is we review the corrective action plans, the caps that you got, caps or gaps that you got from your validated assessment. We will review them as part of your interim assessment to make sure there's continuous improvement. When I say continuous improvement, everyone will go through this exercise when they got first time certified, whether, just more realistic goals around whether I can complete this within 6 months or 8 months, how much budget it would take, who owns this control. So all those things we want to make sure you're doing what you said you're going to do as part of the first year certification. And at BARR, we don't like to wait till interim assessments to talk about corrective action plans, because like I said, the goal of interim assessment is the continuous improvement. So we would have regular syncs and touch bases with our clients to help with that continuous improvement, to make sure our clients review their policies, their procedures, risk assessments if they didn't, and even their system design to make sure nothing changes, or if it changes, then the system design captures that. So we definitely want to make sure everything that's happening within that continuous improvement process, they follow it. So we usually do the syncs and touch bases. So we don't want to wait until the interim assessment, but that's another important thing. We review corrective action plans as part of the interim assessment process. Once this is all done, we tested all the 19 controls, we looked at all the caps that we got from the first year, then BARR will submit the assessment to HITRUST, just like we did validated. And HITRUST does the same level of quality assurance performed on the validated assessments the year prior, and concludes whether our client should retain the certification or not. If HITRUST thinks yes, they should retain the certification, then our clients will have certification. But if there is something that the HITRUST determines for some reason that reassessment is necessary, then BARR will perform a reassessment. After completing the interim assessment, the HITRUST CSF certification is again valid for 1 more year. Just like I said, 2 years, and the middle will come and do an interim assessment, and it's valid for 1 more year. And the organization after that year, they have to go through the recertification for that following year. Important thing to just keep in mind is, HITRUST is valid for 2 years, but the reason of doing this interim assessment to make sure, we check the security posture, right? We did great, we got the certification, everything is good, but then we don't want to wait for 2 years, and we don't want to, we don't know what's happening. But having that interim assessment, we know whether there's a continuous improvement, and that ultimately helps our clients improve their security posture, and that obviously helps their data to be safe and secure. So always, I think interim assessments are great, and they help the clients and just keep their data safe in every possible way. So
Well, thank you, Swathi. We are looking forward to learning more about internal and external inheritance next time on cyBARR Chats HITRUST Edition. Thank you and have a great day.
Thank you.